Well, according to rockhall.com, since its creation in 1986, there have been 746 inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And those are just the ones that have reached the title of superstardom. But what is it that makes these groups and people so great? What is the single factor that ties together what we know as rock and roll? The electric guitar. The electric guitar has been the heart and soul of rock and roll since its origin in the 1930s. And as someone who was raised listening to many different types of rock and roll, it has played a crucial part of my upbringing. So by gaining knowledge of the electric guitar and the role it plays in rock and roll culture, I believe that you will have a more clear idea of how rock and roll has shaped the lives of millions of people. First, I will give you a bit of backstory on the electric guitar and its significance in rock and roll culture. And then I will talk about its impact on society, as well as how I personally identify with both the electric guitar and rock and roll culture. The electric guitar had a very mysterious beginning because there were many people who claimed to have invented the idea of electronically amplified sound. But the original design for the electric guitar goes to George Beauchamp in 1931, who made the first electric guitar and named it the frying pan because it looked like a frying pan. And since then, the idea of electronically amplifying sounds of the guitar has been revolutionary for jazz players at the time because they had to compete with big instruments and drums that were part of huge bands. So in 1954, Gibson started to make more modern guitars, but the more modern sound of rock and roll didn't start until the 1960s with such acts as Chuck Berry, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Led Zeppelin, and all of whom became pioneers of the rock and roll genre. Rock and roll is very diverse. It has many genres and subgenres, but all of them have one common thing: the electric guitar. From such acts like industrial rock to Swedish black metal, which is a thing, the electric guitar is a crucial element to any and all subgenres and genres of rock and roll. It allows musicians from all over the world to communicate with each other based on different chords, and allows them to convey emotions even though they might not speak the same language or even play the same type of music. So, I just talked about how electric guitar has impacted, or I gave a history on the history of electric guitar, and now I will talk about how it has impacted society and how it impacts me. For as long as I can remember, I would always love going on car rides with my father, and no car ride was ever complete without deafening power chords of AC/DC, Megadeth, and Metallica. I would always look forward to these because it gave me a chance to bond with my father, even though we weren't really talking throughout because we couldn't hear each other. And the music that my dad would play gave me a better understanding of his feelings and what he was going through at certain times, because you do subconsciously play music that you feel. And it allowed me to see more of him than I originally had, and how alike we are. Now, I would like to introduce you to Cindy, which is my first electric guitar, even though she failed on me right now. She's very trustworthy, sometimes. Her model, she is a Spectrum which is technically a knockoff of Fender. So it's technically not a real brand, whatever. But I didn't care because I fell in love with it the second I got it. And that was about a year ago. So as I was beginning to learn songs, my father would always come in listening to me play music on my little amp that I couldn't bring today. I'm sorry. And he would always just listen to me and sometimes bring out his air guitar and play along with me, which made me want to continue to learn music. In conclusion, now you should have a better understanding of the electric guitar and the role it plays in rock and roll culture. First, I gave the history and significance of the electric guitar, and then I gave you a better understanding of how I personally identify with both the electric guitar and rock and roll culture. To some, rock and roll may be nothing more than unpleasant noise and screaming, but hopefully now those of you who think that can take a listen and see that is much more than that, and how it has brought together people for generations.